After a four-game homestead, Arizona State football hits the road for the first time this season for their last ever Pac-12 matchup against Cal. Both teams seeking their first Power 5 victory on the year. Nick Borgia, Devil's Digest, alongside our publisher Hode Rubino. And Hode, ASU obviously hoping to snap that three-game skid that they're currently on, but might have a little bit more energy, be more upbeat, a little bit more confidence this time around.
Yeah, I would agree, Nick. I think that if you compare maybe ASU to other one and three teams, especially a team that like ASU would be on a three-game slide, I think you would find a much different mindset than you would here in Tempe. We talked about it in the post game after the USC contest. I mean, I don't know if I would call it a moral victory, but you definitely saw a lot of growth. And granted, you can only go up after being shut out at home 29-0 by Fresno State, but still, especially on offense, we definitely saw a lot of growth. We definitely saw a lot of promising signs. I'm obviously curious, like everybody else, to see how ASU handles the road for the first time. As we all know, this 2023 schedule is loaded with 8 home games. ASU already played 4 of them. So really leaving the comforts of home after nearly a month of football here in their backyard. I'm really curious to see how that element really plays any factor in how they're going to perform. But I would say that it was imperative for ASU to play as well as they did against USC. Sure, you would love to see that game in the win column and not the loss column, but nonetheless, I think they are coming out from that contest really, really encouraged, especially on offense, but I think even defense did turn in a really good performance. We'll see how they do against Cal, and again, you just never know how the element of the road, especially after being 4 straight weeks at home, will affect the team. So I'll be curious to see, like everyone else.
Yeah, Hode, so that ASU offense looked a lot different last week, more energetic, more lethal with Kenny Dillingham calling the plays. That's going to stay the same for this week, but something that's going to change is who is under center for ASU.
Yeah, it is going to be quarterback Trenton Bourguet, the returning starter from last year. As you know, once Jaden Rashada was ruled out for the Fresno State game, the plan was to play Trenton Bourguet 2 series, Drew Pine the following 2 series, and then basically make a judgment into the second half as to who's going to finish out the game. As we know, Trent Bourguet did have an interception in his first series. The second series, he completed 5 straight passes before he injured his ankle and had to leave the game. And then Drew Pine played the majority of that contest with backup Jacob Conover playing for the last couple of series. Now, because of an injury to Drew Pine, it's Trent Bourguet that's going to take the reins. And I think that the performance by Drew Pine, and again, another thing we talked about in our post game on Saturday night, really left a lot to be desired, especially in that last drive where he was sacked 5 times, holding onto the ball too long, really being indecisive. And behind an offensive line that is still having a lot of issues with pass protection, that is really a cardinal sin. And I think Trent Bourguet has the traits that actually would be the sharp opposite of that. He's somebody who is very quick on his feet, has a quick release, has a high football IQ, and again, does have the experience as a starter for 6 games last year. So even though he started the season as a number 3 quarterback, he's definitely not wet behind the ears by any means. I'm more curious to see what's going to happen with the trickery element of this offense. I mean, as you know, Kenny Dillingham, successfully, I should say, dug really deep into his bag of tricks against USC, and that was definitely a major part of why the offense did well. And even Drew Pine was struggling. It was one trick play here, one trick play there. They really helped ASU put points on the board and kept the chains moving. I think this is a game against Cal that it's imperative for ASU, especially on the road, for the first time to just really establish the ground game. Cam Skadable obviously coming off an unbelievable game, 190 all-purpose yards, and that's without any punt or kick returns. And I think that he has really a lot to build on. It's a semi-homecoming from him because he's from Sacramento, but going into the Bay Area, I'm sure there'll be a lot of friends and family in the stands over there for him. So I think if ASU can really take the pressure off Bourguet, really establish this ground game against a very good Cal defense who plays a 4-2-5, but really shows you multiple looks not only throughout the game but even throughout the same drive. Ken Dillingham talked about this group being an absolute chameleon, if you will, with her coverages. So I think the ASU offense, maybe in some respects, has more of a challenge against the Cal defense than they have against the USC defense that really was lapsing, in some of those instances on Saturday night. So I think that really the cure when you play such a sophisticated defense like Cal that can measure multiple looks is just pound the ball and then pound the ball more. And if you can just bring those defensive backs closer to the line of scrimmage because of the success you're having on the ground, I think that's when Trent Bourget can do a good job finding his playmakers in space. Jalen Conyers, Elijah Badger, two prime aerial targets that had a lot of success with Bourget last season, and I think also coming off both of them a very strong game against USC. So now having Bourget behind center, I think, can really benefit the ASU offense.
All right, well, you mentioned the ASU ground game. Let's talk about the Cal ground game. So there's some uncertainty at quarterback for Cal, but on the ground, top 15 in the country yards per game with this Cal rushing attack. So this is going to be a huge part of the Cal offense, and obviously it's not on the level of USC, but still, this is not going to be any cakewalk by any means for the ASU defense.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we talk about their passing game. I mean, it's definitely not a whole lot to write home about. They have one quarterback, Sam Jackson, who's really a little too much of a dual threat quarterback, if that makes sense. Really holds on to the ball a little too much. Does like to make play with his feet rather than stay in the pocket, go through his progressions. And then you have Ben Finley, if that name sounds familiar, prepped locally here at Paradise Valley High School, and he's more of the pocket quarterback. But ultimately, it's just an issue where both of them just have not been able to distinguish themselves from each other. And there definitely were some games where one quarterback would struggle and the other one would do well, and then you just flip the script the next weekend. So I think this is a game that you really, if you're an ASU defense, trying to force the Cal passing game to beat you, because their rushing game is absolutely a load. Jaden Ott, somebody who maybe under the radar somewhat, was an excellent running back in the Pac-12 last year. He's averaging over 100 yards per game, and he's part of a ground attack that averages 216 yards. So this is definitely going to be an absolute load for Arizona State. Unlike the USC game the last week, they're not going to face, I don't think, that much of a balanced offense. So in some respects, Cal, much like ASU, they know that maybe their biggest strength right now is on the ground rather than in the air. So if you're the ASU defense, you're basically coming, I think, with the mindset of the Cal defense, and that's really just to stop the run at all costs. And I think that this is a Cal offense. If you put him in second and long and third and long situations, you can really find a lot of success. But again, when you're facing a team that averages 216 yards on the ground, this is obviously a recipe that every defense playing against Cal was trying to execute, and obviously some teams had more success than not. But overall, I think that this ASU defense can do just enough to shut down Cal. It's not going to be easy, just a different challenge than it was against USC last week.
All right, so snapping a 3-game losing streak is hard enough as it is, and doing so as a heavy road underdog makes it even harder. Do you think ASU at this point in the season has what it takes to maybe pull off that upset?
Yeah, I like to think that all the confidence that we talked about earlier that they really gain, especially on the offense, is really having this team, even though coming off 3 consecutive losses, maybe with a much better mindset than you think they would have. And you have a Cal team that actually got trounced in Washington last Saturday. Now, look, I'll be the first one to say it's no shame losing in Seattle, even losing big in Seattle. Them and USC are arguably the best teams in the conference right now, and a lot of teams over there in Seattle are going to be humbled. ASU is going to play there in about a month, so we'll see how they fare over there. So I don't know if I really would judge harshly or positively Cal too much on what they did against Washington in a blowout loss. But I still think that this game is going to come down to the defenses, because I think that both defenses have a good chance to overwhelm the opposing offense, and I think it's just going to come down to which defense is really having their way more compared to their opponent, and that's really going to dictate the game. Ultimately, I just think that with the wave that the ASU offense is riding, even though, again, they're playing a very, very talented Cal defense. I think that they might be able to do just a little more than Cal's able to do on offense, with playing against an ASU defense that is definitely no slouch by any means. It's going to be a real nail biter, I think. I think definitely not a high-scoring game like we saw last Saturday here in Tempe. So I'm predicting Arizona State to win 26-20.
Awesome, Hodel. Thank you so much for your insight, as always. For continuous coverage of Arizona State football, keep it locked in at DevilsDigest.com. Drop a follow at Devils Digest on Twitter. For Hodel Rubino, my name's Nick Borgia. We appreciate you tuning in, and we will see you in Cal on Saturday.